Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here today. My name is Kristen, and with me here is Jody, and we are going to walk you through the Erasmus process. So this will go over all of the paperwork and all of the various kind of steps of undergoing Erasmus to make sure that you receive the grant and you receive the credit. So we will walk you through everything. Just to note that this session will be recorded, and we do have a lot of information on the slides, and that is purposeful so that you can go back, review the information as required to make sure everything gets done on time. So today, what we will do is switch over. Today, we're just going to walk you through who we are, where we're at. We're going to go step by step through all of the Erasmus documentation, such as things as how to complete and submit your Erasmus grant application, to go through your Erasmus grant agreement, what are the grant rates. We'll also walk you through your learning agreement and academic preparation, as well as go through some to-dos. So these are things like insurance, visas, and some readiness information. After this, we will open it up to a Q&A. During the Q&A, we will stop the recording, so feel free to ask any questions. During the course of this as well, you can add questions to the chat. If you have any questions that you want to keep confidential, you can message Jody, and she will either get back to you, or what we will do during the Q&A is there's likely somebody else that has a similar question, so we will keep you anonymous, but we will answer the question then to the group after. But feel free to keep adding questions kind of as we go throughout the chat. So, as I said, my name is Kristen. I am the Erasmus executive. Essentially, I manage the Erasmus program. And then here is Jody, who you will be getting lots of emails and paperwork from. And she is kind of the knows all things outbound. So we'll be making sure that all of the paperwork and everything is complete. So we are your contacts for any kind of questions or anything that comes up during the course of your Erasmus time and mobility period. And this is just where we are located at, as well as our contact emails. It's just a brief introduction. Hopefully, you know what Erasmus is, but Erasmus stands for European Community Action Scheme for Mobility of University Students and Staff. So it's really the flagship mobility program in education and training. The big goal is to enhance the European dimension of higher education and to allow both staff and students to go abroad and do a study or kind of training period abroad. It has a bunch of different kind of flagship areas, but the majority and the biggest is mobility, inclusion and diversity, digital mobility, and sustainability. So University of Galway has been involved in Erasmus since the beginning. So it's a long-standing program that you will be joining. So what's in it for you? It's a fun time. So you will, create really good memories, make international friends. Many of you will improve language skills. Even if you're studying through English, you're going to be in a new culture where communication styles might be different. So it's a really good chance to improve language skills, learn a new language. You'll experience an entirely new culture. It's very different living somewhere and studying and working than just going there on a holiday. You will broaden your horizons, grow as a person, really gain valuable skills. And a lot of these are going to be things like resilience and soft skills. You're going to be put in a new environment and have to learn to kind of survive and then thrive in there. And so a lot of students come back saying they learned a lot about themselves. And they gained a lot of various skills just beyond learning in a new academic setting. And you will be happy to hear that there also are a lot of academic benefits to undergoing Erasmus. There is data to back up that students who undergo an Erasmus experience have higher rates of employability following their degree program. So is it not only a great experience, but it will also help you in the long run. And at the end of the day, I still believe this too, that traveling is the most intense mode of learning. So we do hope this will be a really great experience for you all, and hopefully we don't have to sell it too much here. But what we will do now is walk you through kind of all of the paperwork that's required to undergo Erasmus. So Here's kind of our overview of the key documentation. So I want to highlight at the top here, Jody will send you kind of a link to this as well. We do have an outgoing Erasmus handbook, and this outlines the entire process and has a lot of information uh, that can probably answer most of your questions. So we do advise that before you email us the questions, before you definitely look at the handbook. It's likely going to answer a question that you have and really outline all of the processes. And then, as I said, we will also be recording this so that you can come back to it. So, a handbook is the key reference. Now, here are the key documentation. Before you go on your mobility, you will have to complete several different forms and agreements. You'll have to complete your grant application. So this is, are you eligible to receive an Erasmus grant? If you fill this out and you are eligible, you will then receive a grant agreement from us. This outlines the terms and conditions of your Erasmus grant, how much money you're going to get, and kind of all the terms and conditions of what it's dependent on. And you also have to complete your learning agreement beforehand. So this is your academic contract, which ensures that the courses you take abroad will count towards your degree here at the University of Galway, and you will be able to progress in your degree program. We will initiate the grant application, the grant agreement. We will provide you all of the instructions on how to initiate your learning agreement. So these are the three key things that take place beforehand. Then during and after your mobility, there's another set of documentation. You will have to provide us a cert of arrival. This is certifying the date that you start. After your payments, we do need a grant acknowledgement form. This is to make sure that you get the correct amount of money into the correct account. We will need a cert of attendance. This is certifying your last date there. And you will have to complete an EU survey and then a final grant acknowledgement form. So this is the overview. We will now dive into each of these documents. So we have the grant application form. This is an online application that Jody will send you. It's a Microsoft form. The deadline for this to complete it is going to be the 29th of May by 5 p.m. And this is a strict deadline. So we need this to be completed in order to receive your Erasmus grant. So do make sure that once you get this, you take the time to get the information you need and then submit it well in advance. Because, as I said, we cannot accept this late. So if this is not in on time, you're not receiving an Erasmus grant. You will then receive your Erasmus grant agreement. Granted, you're eligible for the grant. This will be the financial contract outlining the terms and conditions of the mobility grant. And then the third is your learning agreement. None of these are very complicated to fill out, but we do say ahead of time as a disclaimer before filling any of them out, make sure you provide everything as accurate as possible. This is how we're going to create our databases, our mailing list, and this is, for instance, how we are going to pay you. So we do need to make sure that your names are spelled correctly, bank details are put in correctly. If something is sent to the wrong account, we can't fix that. So do make sure that you take the time to make sure everything's filled out appropriately. So the first one, the grant application form. I said this is a very straightforward form. It's going to be things like your name, your address, how long you're going to be studying for, and your bank. So just make sure that you match your name as according to your passport. Just make it consistent throughout. So one name is sufficient. If you use two throughout. Use the same Irish or English name. Just stick to one and use it throughout the paperwork. In this case, it will be asked for a home address. Please make sure you use a permanent address for this case, not like a university accommodation. You will also be asked to provide dates. And we know that at this point, the dates is going to be an estimate, but hopefully you've had some communication from your host university, or you can look at their website to see the estimated dates. So this might be the date of orientation to the last date of finals, for instance, of that semester. These are really important because your Erasmus grant is based on your dates there. And we will also be asking a series of questions regarding top-up eligibility for your grant. Please answer these as truthfully as possible, and we will follow up with you then if you're eligible for a top-up. But if you have any questions on these series of questions, feel free to reach out to us. We do say before you start, make sure you gather some information. This is going to be your bank account that you want your Erasmus grant to come to. as well as the dates of your study visit. So do look at your host university. Otherwise, this is a very straightforward form to fill out. Once you fill this out, you will receive an automated email that has more information in it. This is what it will look like. This will confirm receipt and then provide just some further information, such as the link to our handbook. This is going to be your confirmation that we've received your information. And again, the deadline for this is the 29th of May at 5 p.m. Part of this as well, you will be asked to say you confirm that you agree to for us to collect your data and information. Just note that it's a very small amount of people. We do recognize this is personal information. It's really us, and it's all kept on a very private and protected SharePoint. It's not accessible to a wide group of people. But again, if you have any questions about how we store your information, feel free to reach out to us. So what happens if you miss the deadline? As mentioned, this is a very strict deadline. So if you miss the deadline for the grant application, you won't be getting an Erasmus grant. You might still be able to go on the study abroad period as is what's called a zero grant student, but this means it's not funded by Erasmus. So please make sure that you get this in on time. And don't wait until the last minute when your computer needs to update or you can't log into your Microsoft system. So we do advise you that to fill this out early because once that deadline passes, we can't accept anymore. So you get your grant application in on time. You're eligible for the grant. We will then issue your grant agreement. This is a financial contract between the university, our office, and you that really outlines all the terms and conditions of your grant. So some things that will need to be entered on this as well and confirming is your bank details, as you will be paid directly. You will have to confirm some statements. This is just to confirm again your eligibility. So some of this confirmation is confirming that you're a registered student at the University of Galway because you will maintain as a registered student here. You will pay your fees as normal at the University of Galway. You will not pay anything for where you're going. But in order to be eligible for this grant and for insurance, you need to be a registered student here. So we're just going to have some checks to make sure of this. We will go into insurance later in this slide, but you also will confirm that you've signed up for it. Or if you're going to your home country, that you have your own. You will confirm that you hold a European health insurance card. For instance, it's eligible. We do advise you to read the terms and conditions. This will, of course, outline how much money you're getting. Very important. But we also say to read the rest of it so that you just understand all of the terms and conditions. And you will need to sign, date, and return this to Jody at the outgoing address before your mobility begins. So just make sure when you're filling this out that you do fill it out correctly, because if your bank details are incorrect, you won't receive the money. And we won't know if your bank details are incorrect. And we've seen this happen. So just make sure that you do get this piece of paperwork in on time. It's crucial for us to pay your grant. And of course, when you sign and date it, make sure you just follow the instructions of how to properly sign and date this document. So probably what you are all wondering is how much money you're going to get and when. So these were the grants for the previous year. They will likely maintain the same. So it depends on where you are going and how long you are going for. So for the top set of countries, it's 385 per month. So this is why your dates of your mobility are very important. So what we will do is calculate based off of how long you're going to be there, basically how many months, and then you multiply that out by 385, and that is then your grant. And then for all other countries not listed on the top, it is 330 per month. There's also a one-time travel contribution. In most cases, this is going to be 309 because it's based on distance, and that is a one-time contribution. There's also an additional top-up grant of 250 based on various categories, and these are questions we're going to be asking during the grant application form. As I said, we will reach out to you if you're eligible for this grant top-up and might ask for more information. But this is the basis, so it's like a kind of a monthly basis will determine your total grant. So how does the grant payment work? We will pay you in two different installments. So we will calculate out what your total grant is. So that's that, say, 385 times 6 months. If you're there, we will then multiply that to give you about 80% as your main grant installment at the beginning of your study period. Now, this is dependent on all of your paperwork being in. And then when we get your final kind of sort of attendance at the end, we will calculate what your actual grant rate is. So it could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less based off of what you said were your estimated dates versus your final dates. And then we will pay you that roughly 20% at the end. Again, granted that all paperwork is in. One thing to note, so we will go through that all the paperwork. You need your learning agreement in, you need your grant agreement in on time in order to receive the payment. Based off of the university's financial year. So financial years end on September 31st and start on October 1st. Because of this, we do not have access to our new year's grant until October 1st. As soon as we get access to that grant, we will process your payments. And then it gets sent out to accounts, and then accounts has to process it, and then it gets to you. So please plan to receive your first payment, really no matter when you start, around mid-October. And unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to get you this payment earlier because that's how the financial year works. So please make sure you plan, depending on when your start date is, that you will need some money when you go to get started. We won't be able to get this first payment to you until around mid-October. And we will communicate if anything changes, but just note the new financial year for the university doesn't start until October 1st. We usually get access to the funds within those first couple of days, and then we will start to process it there. So just make sure what you can do ahead of time is make sure all of your paperwork is in. We will check to make sure all of your paperwork is in before we send your payment. So if all is in, we will send it straight away. But if all is not in, we won't be able to send it right away. So this is what you can focus on in the beginning, making sure your paperwork is in, and then we will process it as soon as possible. But we just want to give you this disclaimer that your first payment won't come until mid-October, so to plan accordingly. As I then said, the last set will be based off of your final dates, and then we will send you that final payment once you are back in Galway and all of your final paperwork is in. All of these terms and conditions, again, will be outlined in your grant agreement form. Note there is also an exceptional needs grant available. Could be for things such as assistive technology, service animals, etc. And this is to cover things that you need in order to go on the Erasmus grant. If you have any questions or think you might qualify for this, please reach out to us. There's a separate application form. This is determined by the HEA, so we will walk you through that process. In addition, if you are simply registered with the disability service here, this is not a requirement, but we do advise you to inform the disability office here, as well as informs the disability office of where you are going. This will not hinder your ability to go. And again, it's not a requirement, but people won't be able to provide you support unless you tell them. They won't know if you need additional time, etc. So we do advise you to speak to disability service here, to speak to your hosts, for instance, for no matter what you need. Nobody's going to be able to provide support if they don't know. Again, if you have any questions on this or on the disability or exceptional needs grant, feel free to reach out to us. Two big things to highlight here about the Erasmus grant. The full contract, again, we advise you to read the grant agreement that goes into the main details. The main breaches of contracts that we do see are individuals fail to complete the agreed study program, or they fail to complete a minimum of 2 months abroad. So just to highlight, if you return home without completing the agreed study period, but have completed 2 months, you will be asked to return a portion of your grant. This means you're only there for 2 months. For instance, you'll have to pay back the amount that's above what would be your rate for those 2 months. And then, of course, if you return home without completing this period, that does have implications for your final degree, your fees, and your progression here at the University of Galway. So we do advise you that if something does come up when you are abroad, We are here to help. We want to help you, but we can't read minds. So it's better to reach out to us early if something comes up, and we will do what we can to assist you and at least to walk you through your various options. But again, we can't do that if we do not know. And we don't want it to be where you're at the very end, you don't know what to do, and you have to pay back your whole grant. So, of course, do reach out to us. But this is just so you know that breaches of contracts can occur where you do have to repay the grant. So, reach out to us if anything comes up as early as you can. Uh, Early intervention is going to be better than a late one. Okay, so that's all of the documents for your grant. You have the grant application and your grant agreement. Now we're going to walk through some academic preparation and the paperwork that is needed for that. So a few things. Some of you might have already received a link from your host university. So in addition to applying for your grant here, you will also need to apply to your host university. We are not in control of that. That is based off of the host university. So do make sure you look out for the email. Might go to your spam folder and do adhere to their deadline and what they require. Different universities require different information. So just make sure you look out for that email, you apply in a timely manner. On our side, and this is in collaboration with your host university, you must complete, which means signed, your learning agreement, which is your academic contract, prior to the start of your mobility period. We will verify this prior to your first grant payment. If your learning agreement is not fully signed, you won't receive your first grant payment. So how does this learning agreement work? As mentioned, this is your academic contract. This is really important because it's going to make sure that you receive credit for your time abroad and that you can progress in your degree program. I'm sure something that you all want to do. So you will work with your academic coordinator for this and not us. So we are not named our office on your learning agreement. This is to do with your academic coordinator. We do have a full list of academic coordinator in our handbook. So if you have any questions on what courses you should take, what courses they will replace here, and it's your academic coordinator who is also going to sign off on this. So we will provide you some instructions, and it's in the handbook about how to complete your learning agreement, but then any questions on this, you will liaise with your academic coordinator. We also advise for language students or really anybody, there is a free online language assessment as part of the Erasmus program. And if you complete this test, you also get free language courses. So why not? It's not a requirement, but it's a resource that is there for you. So a little bit more into the learning agreement. As mentioned, this is the academic contract. This states the agreed courses to take, the credits you will obtain, and how they will be recognized by the University of Galway. It has to be signed by yourself, by the academic coordinator here in Galway, and the academic coordinator at your host university. It's considered fully signed when all three parties have signed it. If you have any questions again on this, this is your academic coordinator. There's a full list of them in the handbook. We're not able to help with any of these academic matters because it is based off of your degree program. Just to highlight here, there is an entire section called changes. In this part, ignore this part in your initial one. This is for changes that occur during your mobility period. And a lot of times that does happen because you're going to be filling this out before you even arrive. So you might be changing what course you take once you are there. If that happens, you simply then fill out this section and get it signed off again. And again, you do want these changes signed because without that, you might not get credit for your time abroad. So here we just have a picture of the learning agreement in its original form. However, most universities at this point, I would say 98% have moved towards digital learning agreements. So this is where you will fill it out online. You don't have to send a Word document back and forth. We have a whole section on the handbook, as well as a video on how to fill this out. If you have any questions during that process, go to those resources first. It will take you through a step-by-step. And again, your academic coordinator will assist on any queries. One thing just to note, the system does not tell somebody when they've been added to a learning agreement. That means when you put in the academic coordinator's name and email, they won't necessarily get an email saying somebody has created a learning agreement for you to sign. So do make sure that once you need somebody to sign this, you can send them a very quick email saying, "Hi, you're my academic coordinator. I'm preparing for my mobility period. I've completed my learning agreement. Can you please sign it?" And you can send them a direct link to it. Just a note, that's kind of a glitch of the system. And just to highlight here again, this is a requirement of the Erasmus program. The requirement is that it's fully signed before you go on your mobility period. We will be checking your learning agreements at the time of payment. This will be the very beginning of October when we get access to the funds. If your learning agreement is signed and say your cert of arrival is in, we will send you your payment. If this is not completed, we will not be able to send you your grant payment and it will be delayed. So do make sure that you get your learning agreement fully signed. It's important for your credits, but also for your grant. Insurance. So we have good news. The University of Galway now provides travel insurance for all registered students. This will not be something you will no longer have to source yourself, except for a few clear exceptions. So what the University of Galway provides is a comprehensive travel insurance by AIG. This is good news. It's all managed by AIG. So if anything comes up, you're able to contact AIG. They have local people on the ground that can help you. So a few things in order to get this travel insurance. You do have to be a registered student, so do make sure you are registered. If you're a registered student and everything else is in place, you're able to sign up for this travel insurance. How it will work is we will email you the policy number. So you will then register either online or they have an app where you'll register with the policy number and your email, and then you are in. You will have then your own kind of a travel insurance card and access to a whole host of information. When we email you the policy number, there will be a whole link to a website that will come out as well where you can read what is covered, what are the exceptions. One of the key exceptions that we want to highlight here, though, is if you are returning to your home country. For instance, if you have citizenship in the country that you are going, you are not covered on this and you will need to get your own travel insurance in this case. We do hope this is a small number of individuals, though, and that most of you will be covered by this. But again, the university is paying for this insurance and is paying for AIG to handle everything. So we don't hear about anything to do with the travel insurance. You'll work with AIG directly. There's a great plethora of information provided by AIG once you log in and create your account. Some things included in the package are things like country reports and city guides. This can help you even trying to figure out where you're going to live, maybe about some cultural differences based off of where you're going. They have a lot of pre-departure information, such as health advice, their security and safety training modules. One thing that I really like is they have a whole worldwide medication information. So it can provide you accurate ways to translate different conditions, different medications, and how things are spoken in different countries. That could be really helpful for you. There's also an entirely virtual care program while abroad that is included. This means you have access to online health consultations at no cost to you, mental health coaching at no cost to you. So these are things that you can utilize during your time abroad. And I want to highlight here, we will, once you sign up for it, you also have access to this number. If any type of emergency happens when you are abroad, there's a 24/7 Lifeline Plus emergency number that you can call. You will simply need to provide them the policy number. And as I said, AIG has networks across the world, so you will get local help for anything that is happening. We do advise you to register ahead of time. This is a requirement. Just give a look through about what's included. We hope that this is something you are not going to need, but it's there if you need it, and it's better that you are signed up and know what can be covered. I'd rather all of you read the information and then never have to use it, but it's there as your travel insurance. But we do want to highlight here that travel insurance is not medical insurance, even though like online health consultations are included. So if you think you need additional medical insurance, we do advise you to research that and take that out yourself. But we do say if you are eligible to hold a European health insurance card, you must hold it. So please apply for that ahead of time. And again, we're providing you with this travel insurance. If you think you need any additional kind of medical insurance, you can take that out for yourself. And again, we will email you the policy number and instructions on how to sign up for this. And we do advise you, there's a lot of great information provided by AIG. So you can really look through this and lean on them for some of your research. Next question. Do you need a visa? So if you're not an EU citizen, you may need a visa for your studies for where you are going. So what we advise you is to just investigate, do a Google search, check with your destination country embassy in Ireland. For note, this applies to UK citizens who only hold a British passport. We also want to note something that if you are going to Spain and you want to work during your time abroad, that requires a specific registration with the Spanish government. So please research this if this is applicable to you and your situation. But we just want to set the proper expectation management here. We don't have, our office doesn't have visa expertise, and we are not experts in visas either. And because visas are so personal, it depends on your own circumstances, your own citizenships, and where you're going and how long you're going for. The process of applying for a visa is so individual. So if you do think you need a visa, please research it, reach out to the embassy, and do it early enough. Sometimes there are very long waiting periods, so we advise you to do this as early as possible, just to make sure everything is in line. And I said, if you have a question, we will just be Googling it as well. If you need like a letter, we can provide those things, but we do say you do need to apply for the visa as an individual. It's not something the university can do for you. Believe me, I wish I had this power. I need a visa to be here. I would love to be able to grant myself a visa, but unfortunately, I have no power over this. So this is just kind of a disclaimer that if you think you might need a visa, just start doing the research now, reaching out to people. Embassies will be able to help you along the line, and just to set the expectation that we are not able to provide bespoke expertise advice. And just some other things here, as I said, noted, we do have issues with students who go to Spain and want to work. There's a very specific registration. It can be different based off of where you're at in Spain. So just do the research ahead of time to make sure that everything is in order before you go. Again, some other things just that we advise you to be prepared. Research your host university, the city where you are be going. There could be some different laws that you need to be aware of. This can be things like reading the university website, reading reports from former students, maybe of what surprised them or what they wish they knew before they went. The travel insurance is going to provide you country and city links as well. We also advise you to download the Erasmus Plus app and the AIG app. There's a whole culture section on justlanded.com to walk you through some maybe differences in culture that you should be aware of. And one thing to add here, this is again just another common sense measure when traveling, even when you travel on holiday, but we advise you to register your destination with the Department of Foreign Affairs. The Department of Foreign Affairs has a website for each country, so definitely look at that before you go. Read the advice. They're going to be telling you what might be different here than here in Ireland that you should know. Maybe there's a very local law that you should be aware of before you go. You can also register your destination and how long you are going for. We advise you to do this. This is not to be fearful or anything. But again, this is something we would rather you be registered for and then can forget that you ever registered for it and never have to need it. But as we're all aware, the geopolitical landscape is continually changing. So if something were to happen, you would rather be registered with the Department of Foreign Affairs. They can then email you with what the Irish government is saying, different routes. We did have people, for instance, in the UAE and different people when things happened, and so they needed to be in contact with the Department of Foreign Affairs. So again, this is just a common sense measure. We advise you to register with the DFA. Also, please note the contact details for the Irish Embassy or consulate of your citizenship in your host country. I would rather you have this information, never have to use it. The hope is none of you will have to use it, but we just say it's just a common sense safety measure to register and note this information in today's world. So, kind of summarizing some of the items on your to-do list so far. First one is the application. The grant application that Jody will send you will initiate all of the rest of the paperwork. So do make sure you fill this out correctly. If your names and things are spelled wrong, bank details are wrong, that sets the rest of it off wrong and you might not receive the grant. So make sure you fill this out fully and on time, and follow the instructions in there. Uh, that's your first step. In the meantime, you can arrange your European health insurance card where eligible. Once we send you the policy number for the travel insurance, that will be in the coming weeks. Sign up for it. Take a look at what the policy includes. Make sure your passport is valid for at least 6 months after your final return trip. We have had people unable to go on their Erasmus mobility because an airline turned them away at the terminal because their passport was going to expire in the next 6 months. So do make sure your passport is going to be valid 6 months after your return home. Just take a look at online banking. You might still be able to say when you're in your country to use, your Bank of Ireland card, or Revolut, but just take a look. Maybe you need a separate kind of online banking. Consider getting an international student card, maybe get some discount. Definitely ahead of time, research accommodation. We don't know about accommodation in anywhere else outside of Galway. Oh, uh, where you're going might have an accommodation service. You might be able to apply for on-campus accommodation. Some of you will be going to places where you will find accommodation 1, 2, 3. Some of you will be going to locations that are very similar to Galway, where it will take quite a bit of effort to find accommodation. So we advise you to just start researching this now. Again, this is not something we can help you with. We don't know about accommodation in other cities. So look at the universities where you're going website, start to research where you might live and get a sense of how to apply for it. Maybe the application processes are different, timelines might be different. So definitely research this. And just be aware of any type of scams. Don't sign up for anything, don't send payments over ahead of time. We have had students scammed. We don't want this to happen to you. There's nothing we can do if it does happen. So just have kind of common sense awareness. If anything seems too good, it probably is. So just start researching this, really ahead of time. As I said, register with the Department of Foreign Affairs where you're going and for how long. We do have a Facebook group. If you are on Facebook, you can join it. We will make announcements on there. Everything will also be emailed out. And that is this next part. Make sure you have continued access to your University of Galway email address. We will be sending you everything through your University of Galway email address. So do make sure you continue to check this during your time abroad, because we will be sending you important information to this email address. So as a summary, to kick this off, we will send you the link to your grant application form. We will also send you your letter of nomination, confirming your Erasmus student status. We will send you your grant agreement. Granted, you're eligible and your grant application form is in. We will also send you some additional information, student charter and timeline. So just a reminder, grant application is not in. You're not getting any grant. The deadline is the 29th of May at 5 p.m. So if you're trying to get in at 4 p.m. and your computer crashes and you don't get it in on time, you're not getting your grant. So do make sure that you get this in early enough and ahead of time. Now to highlight some key documentation that will take place during your mobility. Again, just highlighting here, the handbook is your key reference. Once you arrive, you will have to submit a certificate of arrival. This certifies your start date. If we go back to your grant and how much money you get, it's based off of your length of time. So you need to certify your start date. This will be a form that the host university fills out. Most of them will fill them out, say, during an orientation period. It will have to be signed, dated, and stamped by your host university. And we do need it physically signed, dated, and stamped. We can't accept digital signatures for this, so do make sure you submit this. This will certify your start of arrival. If your start of arrival is in, your grant agreement is in, and your learning agreement is in, we will then be able to pay you. And again, remember that will be mid-October. Once you get your grant payment, you'll need to submit a grant acknowledgement form. This makes sure we have no way to know once the money goes out into the ether that it gets to you. So this is a due diligence to make sure that you got the correct amount that you should be getting. You will sign and submit that after each payment. So this will be couple of, could be two, three times as well. You will then need to submit a certificate of attendance. This is very similar to the sort of arrival, but your host university will say what your start, what your final end date is. It's usually the last date of your exams, and they will sign, date, and stamp that. You will also get an EU Commission survey. Once all of this last bit is in, we will then figure out your final amount and then pay you the final grant. So kind of your paperwork summary in order is your grant application form, grant agreement and learning agreement are taking place. During, you will fill out your grant acknowledgement form, both your certificate of arrival and certificate of attendance, and your student survey. So it is a lot, but it is all kind of common sense and it does all follow a flow. So if you have any questions about any of this, we advise you to read the handbook first, read the website, come back to this recording, and then if after you've, researched all of that and you still have a question, come to us. We'll be able to help you and walk you through the process. Just another reminder here, we will communicate all of this information with you during your time abroad to your University of Galway email address. Please make sure you maintain access and check this address during your time abroad for updates, for paperwork, etc. If you lose access, please contact ISS ASAP. Just giving you the note here, failure to check your University of Galway email or not having access to it, it is not, a reason for anything. So a resulting failure because you don't check it or you don't have access to answer our emails to get it documented on time does not constitute a valid excuse. And that may result in losing your grant and then you might have to repay it all. So not to be grim, but just make sure this is how we want to make sure that you have everything you need to succeed. So just make sure you are checking this email address and that you maintain access to it. This is how we will communicate with you. And if you lose access to it, you you will miss something and then you may not get your grant. So that's all of kind of the paperwork summary. We will now just briefly kind of touch on some things such as readiness, and we will then open it up to Q&As. So first, a few things on academic readiness. Some of this might sound a little bit cheesy, but it is true. When you are going abroad, you are an ambassador for both country and university. Sounds very grandiose, but it's true. Your behavior and attitude while you are abroad is going to reflect the larger reputation, say, of the University of Galway and all of its degree holders. You are all going to get a degree from the University of Galway. You want it to hold weight and you want it to be that, say, you are going for a job interview and somebody on that panel, they were an Erasmus student with somebody from the University of Galway. They might have a tainted, point of view. Oh, that student was just rude. Or, that student was really great to work with. So you do want to make sure that, what you are doing, your behavior and attitude do reflect on the University of Galway. And just to be aware, nobody expects you to be perfect. This is a learning experience, but just be aware that things in your host university are going to be different than here. There might be very different class sites, very different course sites. The rules of engagement might be totally different between how you engage with classmates and how you engage with professors and teaching assistants, etc. And just the class style may be different. So as I said, nobody expects you to be perfect, but some things you can do to make sure you're holding yourself up as this ambassador is that you're just utilizing professionalism. You speak to people with proper etiquette. So this could be in emails, for instance. You're not emailing, hey, what is this? Make sure you use proper email etiquette. Just make sure you read the course rules, the course syllabi. If the university has ambassadors, if they have orientation, attend it. Learn about the way things are done at that host university. Reach out to people and use resources as needed. At the end of the day, it's simply just be respectful and just have academic integrity. Or that could have larger consequences as well. So again, this is just a very few things. Again, respectful academic integrity, professionalism, and just some things now on emotional readiness. All of you will likely experience culture shock. Culture shock is the impact of just moving from something familiar to something that is unfamiliar. Could be a lot of causes to this. It is a shock when you're in an entirely new environment. And again, it's not a holiday. Once you move there and you get settled in, things are going to be different. You're going to have to learn new ways, learn a new culture. You're going to be away from maybe friends and family. Your very familiar routine is going to be gone, and everything is going to be new. Sights, sounds, food, climate, language, etc. It can be really exciting, but can also be very overwhelming. And this culture shock can happen really at any time. It could be to something really big, but it could also be to something really small. And I'll just give one example of my own culture shock. As you might hear from my accent, I'm not from Ireland. So when I first moved here and in one of my first kind of team meetings here at the university, I had the biggest culture shock ever, and I spiraled for about a minute, and then I was fine. But what happened was I asked people where the garbage can was, and everybody just started laughing because it's just, you don't say garbage can, you say bin. And during this time period, as everybody laughing, it wasn't mean, it was just at the word itself. And I knew that, but I just went down the spiral of what am I doing? Do I belong here? And then, I quickly came out of that culture shock. So I just want to highlight here to everybody that you're likely going to experience it. It's completely normal. It's very common and it should pass. And just think it's likely happening to everybody else on this call at some point or another. But, as things come up, contact your family, contact your support groups on a regular basis. Bring something familiar from home. Maybe find a familiar hobby or club at your host university. But if problems do arise and continue to happen, reach out to us, utilize the mental health coaching of AIG. You also are able to access the University of Galway counseling service from abroad online, and these are all resources for you. And we say reach out early, reach out ahead of time. As mentioned in the beginning, we are here to help if something does come up, but we need to know that something did come up. And just note that who you will be communicating with is us. We will keep everything confidential and we will do everything we can to advise you and help you. But just make sure we need to know. So if anything does arise, things become very stressful. The culture shock is not, evading. There are resources available to you. So lastly, these are just some things when we ask students that went on Erasmus from the University of Galway what their key challenges were and some things they found exciting. The key personal challenges that people bring up ahead of time is adjusting now to living alone or, to living outside of your friend group. The second biggest thing that students say is having to adopt to certain foods. And then the third is adopting to the expenses of living abroad. So the key advice from returning students, the number one is budget for your time abroad there. The second is to go and try the food from where you're at. The third is to take the time to explore. You are there for your coursework and to do well, but it's also an experience. So explore where you're going to be living. And lastly is to enjoy this Erasmus time and period. So I said, we wish you all a wonderful experience, and we will now open it up to questions.